How an Australian Prime Minister disappeared without a trace. Following Sir Robert Menzies' resignation in January 1966, Harold Holt was elected as Prime Minister of Australia. He was a professional politician who entered the legislature at age 27 and was appointed a cabinet minister at age 31. Holt loved the outdoors and had beach cottages at Bingle Bay, Queensland, and Portsea, Victoria. In 1954, he learned how to spearfish, and it quickly became his favorite pastime. Holt favored skin diving or snorkeling to oxygen tanks because he believed them to be cumbersome and unauthentic. His friends remarked that Holt had incredible powers of endurance underwater and that he occasionally amused himself during parliamentary discussions by testing his breath-holding capacity. He was not a great surface swimmer, despite being able to tread water for extended periods of time. Harold Holt was on holiday close to Portsea, Victoria, on December 17, 1967. He recommended that the group stop at Cheviot Beach for a swim on the way back to Portsea because it was about 12:15 p.m. and he wanted to cool off and build up an appetite before lunch. Holt was well familiar with the region and had frequently swum there before. In 1960, he even managed to save a porthole from the SS Cheviot, the shipwreck that gave the beach its name. In spite of a significant surge and apparent currents and eddies, Holt dove right in. Holt used to enjoy himself more by suffocating oneself than by listening to argument. Tells a lot about Parliament. Holt used to spend hours spearfishing and snorkeling year-round. He would even test himself during protracted parliamentary sessions. Only Stewart was swimming because the others thought it was unsafe. Stewart kept near to the beach and could feel the powerful undertow even in the shallows. Holt, though, swam deep further and vanished out of thin air. The most plausible explanation is that Holt did in fact drown after becoming entangled in a rip current, which is a powerful, quick, and narrow movement of water moving away from the beach. Since most employees were on yearly leave, the Australian Army training facility was mostly empty. But the Victoria Police were notified and started one of the largest search operations in Australian history. On high alert was the whole Australian Defence Force. When 3 novice divers entered the water and found it too choppy, they started looking for Holt's body. By the end of the day, more than 190 personnel were involved. With operations based out of the Officer Cadet School, this number eventually increased to more than 340. On December 18, amid a high wind, rough waves, and sporadic rain, the search was resumed. 50 divers worked in stages, concentrating on the ledges and rock pools close to where Holt had been last seen. Since they were constantly being pushed up against the neighboring cliff wall, they had no choice but to free dive in order to avoid serious harm. On January 5, 1968, the formal end of the search for Holt's remains was declared, despite the fact that it had been gradually reduced to a daily beach patrol. Of course, not everyone is persuaded by the simple explanation, which is why Harold Holt's disappearance has been the focus of conspiracy theories. Most notably the idea that he was a spy from the People's Republic of China and that on that crucial day, a Chinese submarine scooped him up, taking him to Beijing to spend the remainder of his days. Anthony Gray, a former Reuters writer, made precisely that allegation in his book The Prime Minister Was a Spy, which was based on conversations he claimed to have had with several different Chinese government officials. However, the book was generally dismissed when it was first published and has since been found to have several mistakes. In the 2008 documentary The Prime Minister is Missing, it was alleged that Holt's judgment on the weekend of his passing away had been impaired by his medicine, in addition to fatigue and stress from work. Although no direct evidence suggested that he had taken any on the day of his passing away, morphine was identified as the medication he had been prescribed. Holt's widow was cited as stating in response to the book, "He didn't even like Chinese food, which, to be honest, makes me more suspect that something fishy was going on." One theory holds that Holt faked his own end so he could move to Switzerland with his lover. On the other hand, it seems like a lot more work than just like. Divorcing, because if you get divorced, you can also keep being Prime Minister. Then, it's possible that he simply didn't want to deal with the paperwork. Another theory holds that Holt was assassinated by the CIA because the US believed he would pull Australia out of the Vietnam War. Holt, who passed away in office in 1945, was Australia's third Prime Minister to do so following John Curtin and Joseph Lyons in 1939. John McEwen originally succeeded him in a caretaker position, then after the Liberal Party leadership contest, John Gorton took over.